Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and to my kitchen where I often am. In this video, I am going to show you 5 dinners that I make in our house seriously on repeat. Pretty much all of them, Luke says, this is the best thing that you make. And I go, okay, so I make it often. So it's 5 nights of dinners, and I will talk through how I make them all and what goes in them. Trust me when I say I am not a chef, but I do know how to cook, but don't judge my chopping technique. It's probably not perfect, but I just want to preface that all these meals are quite simple, incredibly delicious. Anyone can make them. Delicious, hearty, amazing dinners that are honestly pretty simple and easy to do, and that you'll probably look forward to eating every night. Most of them make leftovers the next day. Well, it does for us. We're only 2 people, so what I make serves maybe like 4 to 5 people, and we have a few leftover meals for lunches in the next day and the day after. So here is 5 dinners that we make on repeat. First one is chicken and leek pie. So for the pie, you will need an onion, a leek, a zucchini, a carrot, thyme. We've got fresh thyme from the garden. And you'll start by slicing the leek. Onion, remember how I said not to judge my chopping technique? I know the technique, but I know that I'm not great at it. Just roughly chop a zucchini. Our dogs love zucchini, so I always have to give them a little piece. And also just roughly chop a carrot. And also a whole bunch of mushrooms. I honestly just go by eye and what I think will fit in the pan. It could be like 7 or 8 mushrooms that I've got here. There's no hard and fast rule. Okay, so we get the pan on, and this is the pan that I will be putting in the oven. We start with some butter because flavor. And garlic olive oil, lots of it. Just melt that down until it's bubbly, and then we start by throwing in the leek and the onion just to soften them up. bit of salt. After about 5 or so minutes, when the leek and the onion have softened and absorbed all the butter, just chuck in all the other veg. Bit more seasoning. And then we leave that until the veg is all softened as well. And then just make some space in the pan if you need and chuck in some diced chicken breast. This is 2 chicken breasts, which is about half a kilo or 500 grams. Once the chicken is cooked on the edges, I add in the fresh thyme. At this stage, I also did add a chicken stock cube. Give it all a good mix and leave it to cook for a little bit. Then we need 2 sheets of puff pastry. Get them out to start thawing. And then we will beat an egg that is going to be brushed over the top of the pie. And now we're going to assemble the pastry on top of the pie. It is super easy. I'll admit this is not the prettiest pastry job in the world, but if you just fill in all the gaps with pastry, slice through the top to let some steam out, and then brush the egg over the top. Sprinkle some fresh thyme on top. This might look questionable now, but you will not even notice when it comes out of the oven, all golden and bubbly. And then in the oven it goes. I cook it until it is super golden and crispy, which is about 25 to 30 minutes. And the oven's maybe 200 degrees. It is so crispy and crunchy. I also threw on a bit more flaked sea salt before it went in the oven. Take a big slice and scoop out all that flavoursome goodness and the crispy pastry on top. Absolutely make this. So tonight, another one of Luke's absolute favourites, a creamy sun-dried tomato pasta. Super simple and straightforward, super delicious. What I put in this pasta, it's honestly just like the feel and the vibe of what would go with creamy sun-dried tomato pasta. We do onions, zucchini, mushroom. That's all. You can add in other veggies if you want to, but I really love this combo. After you've finely chopped the onion, chopped the zucchini, chopped the mushrooms, you can slice them, chop them, go as fine as you want. I'm just slicing them here. whatever fresh herbs I might be using. You absolutely do not need fresh herbs. We just happen to grow a lot of fresh herbs in our gardens, so I have oregano, thyme, and basil available to me. All right, getting it on the stove. I use garlic olive oil for everything all the time. I can't really have fresh garlic, so garlic olive oil is a game changer. Sauté the onions, bit of salt. Once they're softened, all the other veg in, season again. And now for these sun-dried tomatoes. I get these sun-dried tomato strips from Aldi, and I put a little bit of the oil in just before I put the diced chicken in because I feel like it adds a little bit of extra flavour. Then I put in maybe a third of a jar of the sun-dried tomatoes. And now an entire container of cream. I never claimed that this was low calorie. Throw in the fresh herbs, get your pasta on. I love putting chili flakes in this, you absolutely do not have to. In with some fresh thyme. Salt and pepper again, of course. Give everything a good stir. And now I'll put some fresh basil in before I let it simmer. Towards the end, I put in as much baby spinach as I can fit, which will wilt down to almost nothing, but it's a really nice little addition at the end to the sauce. Now add a bit of pasta water, strain the pasta, put the pasta in. This is my favorite pot. It does not fit everything super well, so stirring it all together can be a bit delicate, but we get it done. And it is ready to serve. You can finish this with some freshly grated parmesan, salt and pepper, and some fresh basil leaves. And it's spectacular. Thank me later. Tonight, I am doing beef chili con carne taco bowls. Again, starting with a diced onion. Do not judge me on any of my cooking skills or my chopping skills. I do my best. Everyone just does their best. We all need to cook to eat, so we do our best. I do know how to do it properly. I'm just like, my technique is not amazing. First up though, I am dicing this onion to make pico de gallo, which is a recipe that I got from Recipe Tin Eats. And it is onion, jalapeno, tomato, coriander, lime juice, salt and pepper. Basically you chop all these things up, mix them in a bowl, and it's like a really fresh Mexican salsa. Here I am removing the seeds from the tomato just so it's a bit less watery, and you use more of the flesh of the tomato in the salsa. We also grew these tomatoes, so they're actually quite soft, but they're really sweet and delicious, and they're really good to just roughly chop and put in things. So this is perfect. also grow these jalapenos, which I love. So just one jalapeno, which can be quite a lot. I throw that in. If you didn't see before, I put the fresh onion in a glass of water just to take the edge off a little bit before it goes in the salsa. Adding some lime juice, season, and then in with some fresh coriander, which we do grow, but the plant has not really survived, so I did buy this from the supermarket. Now I'm just chopping up a few extra toppings, which are these baby capsicums that we did grow. And now onto the beef chili. Just dice a white onion, and you do not have to also dice a red onion. I just had one sitting around and I thought this would be extra yummy. Really, zucchini can go in anything, and I try and put it in anything. It's so versatile. I love zucchini. And it is time to get cooking. Garlic olive oil, of course. Also putting some rice on. Once the onion is softened, go in with the zucchini, soften that a little bit, and then we go in with some ground beef. Start to brown the beef a little bit, but we're gonna go straight in with the spices. I don't really measure the spices. I just put in about a teaspoon of smoked paprika, sweet paprika, cayenne pepper, or chili powder, cumin, chili flakes, because I put chili flakes in everything, and I put oregano in with my Mexican spices. I don't know why, I just like to. Coat everything in the spices. In with some canned tomatoes. Strained kidney beans. A little sprinkle of brown sugar, or a couple of spoonfuls. Squeeze of lime juice, and some chopped fresh coriander. Let that all simmer for a little bit before serving in a bowl with rice. And this is the finished pico de gallo. Fresh capsicum, grated cheese, avocado, a big dollop of sour cream, and some corn chips to serve, and honestly, spectacular. Tonight I've come home from an afternoon tea out with my sisters and mum for my mum's birthday, and am feeling like my beloved late Uncle Jack's creamy tuna pasta. I have never written this recipe down. My Uncle Jack, who is Italian, served this tuna pasta to us so many times that one day I asked him, how do you make it? And he told me, and I never wrote it down, but I can still hear him telling it to me. I remember it at the top of my head, and I didn't make it for a really long time, but I've started making it a bit more regularly. So we start by finely dicing some onions. Uncle Jack used shallots and fresh garlic, but I don't think my stomach can handle fresh shallots. So onion and garlic olive oil is how I am doing it. Needed a cup of tea tonight because I was really tired. So also in this pasta, while it is very basic, the two main ingredients are tuna and broccoli. So you chop the broccoli up into these florets, and the reason why this is yet again a very simple dinner is because you cook the broccoli in the water with the pasta, and it just saves pots. So that is all prepped. Back to my favorite pot. A big amount of butter for deliciousness, garlic olive oil, get the pasta water on. Little story time, my mum's sister married my Uncle Jack. Well, his real name is Giacinto, and my whole life we'd go to their house and I got to experience the most incredible Italian food. Just everything amazing, all sorts of delicious pastas. I know he cooked a lot of seafood, and I don't really eat seafood, so I never got to enjoy that. Very traditional family cooking, pigs on spits, all of that. The smell of this pasta and the flavour of it is my entire childhood come back. Sadly, he has passed away now, but I'm just so pleased that I asked him how he makes this pasta. We've got the onions sautéing in the butter and garlic olive oil. I do remember he said to sauté the onions for a really long time, like 10 minutes, and they become really soft and sweet. And as someone who is a bit of an impatient cook and would normally just saute onions for like a couple of minutes, it truly does do the trick. When you saute them for a really long time, they become so delicious. The next key ingredient is some white wine. I just happen to have about a quarter of a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc in the fridge left over, so I poured it all in. I think maybe I overdid it, but honestly, it all simmered down. And this is the point where it starts smelling absolutely insane. And now in with just some plain canned tuna. This recipe feels so fancy and indulgent, but it's so simple because it just uses tuna from a can. You don't have to really handle any raw chicken or anything. You just put it in and let it simmer for a little bit. Time for the pasta to go in. I use Barilla pasta, which, story time again, my older sister actually got to travel around Italy with my Uncle Jack and our Auntie Helen Apparently they drove past a sign for Barilla or the Barilla factory or something like that, and Uncle Jack said that is the only pasta that you should be cooking with. However, despite that story, he did tell me the key to this recipe was fresh pasta that he probably made himself. So I'm sure in a bind he used Barilla, but I tell ya, both delicious. In again with a whole tub of cream because flavor and happiness. Season with lots of pepper and salt. Stir that all together and leave to simmer. So I put the pasta in, which takes 12 minutes to cook. And in about the last 5 minutes, I throw in the broccoli florets for them to cook as well. Now in with some fresh basil from the garden. And some chili flakes. Because I put chili flakes in everything, I'm not sure if Uncle Jack did this. And now that everything is cooked, we mix it all through the creamy tuna pasta sauce. We were only ever served pasta at Uncle Jack's house that was stirred through the sauce. This smells as divine as you can imagine. Oh, how I long for Uncle Jack's electronic parmesan grater or grinder or whatever it was. Either way, fresh parmesan on top, fresh pepper, fresh basil. I really hope you make this one, guys. It is so special to me and so delicious. Tonight, I am making chicken quesadillas, or my interpretation. I'm not going to claim that this is a traditional quesadilla, but these ones are an absolutely delicious and satisfying throw together meal. I make these when I don't feel like cooking, which probably sounds hilarious because it's still a little bit of a process. Again, I am making pico de gallo to serve with the quesadillas. I do not have any fresh coriander this time, but this salsa is just as delicious without it. So now to prep the quesadilla filling, which is just sliced zucchinis, capsicums, and red onion. Every time I cut a red capsicum, I have to share it with my dogs. I think this is their most favorite thing to eat. And now just quickly prepping the tomatoes for the pico de gallo. Now that will soak up all the delicious lime and salt flavors. I'm also making a quick guacamole for the quesadillas tonight. You do not have to have so many condiments with your quesadillas. We were just in a Mexican mood and wanted to make everything to go on top of them. Just seasoning the avocado, salt and fresh lime juice, and just mash it. This is absolutely enough, but I will put in a sprinkle of cumin and cayenne anyway, because why not? Chicken quesadillas, so I just slice some chicken breasts and in with the Mexican spices again. So we have cumin, sweet paprika, smoked paprika, cayenne pepper, and a pinch of cinnamon. Garlic olive oil in a pan, get all the veggies in there to get them sautéed, bit of salt. Once they are softened, in you go with the spiced coated chicken breast and fry that off until it's pretty much cooked through. A squeeze of fresh lime, which kind of gives it this fresh glossiness, so good. Now it is time to actually assemble the quesadillas. So me and Luke usually have 2 each, and they are honestly stuffed full with this filling. So lay out 4 tortillas, and I just fill 1/2 of a tortilla. Sprinkle some tasty cheese on the chicken. And try really hard to fold it over and push it down. Try and flatten it as much as you can and repeat for the other ones. Now to make them extra crunchy and crispy on top, you don't have to do this, but you can drizzle some olive oil on top and a sprinkle of flaky salt, and you just put them in the oven until they're crispy and golden and the cheese is sizzling out the side. And there you go. They are ready to be served up. It is time for the guacamole. It is time for the sour cream. And it is time for the pico de gallo, which me and Luke are obsessed with. It's so fresh and delicious. And it makes it taste like you're eating at a Mexican restaurant. 10 out of 10.